Sumerian mythology, the kidnap of Erishkigal. Amid the woven tapestry of Eridu's twilight, a chamber bathed in the golden hues of the setting sun cradled Erishkigal, the Sumerian goddess of the underworld. Her form lay sprawled across an ebony divan, ensconced in cushions that bore the emblems of her ethereal domain. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and myrrh, and gentle strumming of a lyre performed by unseen hands danced throughout the room. Your radiance eclipses even the glory of Ishtar, murmured a servant, her eyes cast down as she offered a chalice wrought of lapis lazuli. Erishkigal's lips curled in a knowing smile, accepting the tribute with the languid grace as one accustomed to worship. Ishtar rules the heavens, but remember, it is I who reigns beneath. All will return to my embrace in time. The serenity of the bedchamber was shattered by the cacophony that tore through the evening calm, a roar that resonated with a primal fury. Erishkigal sat up, her indolence replaced by a sudden sharpness in her obsidian gaze. "Speak not of Ishtar," she commanded, her voice sliding through the panic that began to claw at the edges of the room. "Attend to me, and tell me what beast dare disturbs my repose." Outside the castle walls, chaos unfurled like a dark bloom. The dragon Kurr, scales like midnight and eyes alight with malice, descended upon Eridad. His jaws parted, and from within the cavernous maw, bolts of raw electricity surged forth, arcing through the sky and striking the stone battlements with the force of a tempest. "Protect the goddess," a voice cried out, though it seemed distant against the thunderous assault. Servants scurried, but their motions were futile gestures against the might of Kurr. Erishkigal rose, her movements imbued with an elegance that belied the urgency of her thoughts. "The dragon is here. My brother's war is here. But why does this creature of earth and storm seek audience with the mistress of the afterlife?" Her mind churned with possibilities, with the portents of omens unbid. "Milady, we must seek refuge. Kurr shows no mercy," another servant implored, his eyes wide with terror. "Refuge?" Erishkigal echoed, a cool disdain frosting her words. "I am Erishkigal, queen of Urkala, sovereign of the silent realm. No beast shall drive me from my sanctuary." The conviction in her tone was a blade unsheathed, cutting through the fear that clung to her attendants. The very foundations of the palace shuddered as Kurr unleashed his wrath, stone crumbling beneath the relentless barrage. Screams wove through the air, a lament for lives extinguished in the electric inferno. Erishkigal's heart remained untouched by the havoc. Her concern was not for the mortals who perished, but for the arrogance that dared to challenge her sovereignty. "Summon my chariot," she ordered, her voice a cold wind that stirred the heavy drapes. "If this dragon seeks an audience with death, then let him look upon my face and despair." And as the fortress of Eridad faltered under Kurr's fierce attack, Erishkigal, cloaked in the majesty of her eternal station, prepared to confront the maelstrom, unbowed by the tempests that raged beyond her chamber walls. Erishkigal's eyes were two burning coals of defiance as she stood amid the ruins of her once immaculate chamber. The scent of ozone and smoke hung in the air like a shroud, but it was a silence that followed the chaos that now whispered of doom. She could feel the dragon's presence before she saw him, an electric charge tingling across her skin. "Queen of the netherworld," Kurr's voice boomed, reverberating off the shattered walls. His serpentine form slithered through the wreckage, his scales glinting with hints of cobalt and silver. "Your reign ends today." "Does it?" Erishkigal sneered, stepping over a fallen column, her regal poise undiminished by the debris around her. "You lay waste to my city and think you can usurp my throne with mere brimstone and terror?" "Usurp?" The dragon's laugh was crackled with thunder. "No, goddess, I come to offer you a crown benefiting your splendor, a queen to rule beside me." Her heart did not flutter at the promise, nor did fear lace her thoughts. Contempt curled within her like a snake. A consort to a beast she mused bitterly. He knows nothing of power if he believes it can be bartered with honeyed words and destruction. Your offer is as empty as the void, she countered, her voice laced with venom. I bow to no one, least of all to a creature who confuses strength with savagery. Kurr's eyes blazed with an intensity that could outshine the stars. With a swift moment, he closed the distance between them, his form contracting, becoming even more concentrated, as if the storm that raged within him had been harnessed into a singular purpose. Stubbornness befits you, but it will not save you. He lunged, talons extended. Ereshkigal dodged, her movements fluid, but Kurr's attack was merely a feint. In a flash, he ensnarled her with a tail as unyielding as iron, pulling her against his scaled figure. She could feel the crackle of his power enveloping her, threatening to shear her divine essence. Release me, she demanded, struggling against his grasp. The proximity of the dragon filled her nostrils with the acrid scent of scorched earth. Never, Kurr hissed, his voice a sibilant whisper. Together we shall ascend, and your underworld shall be but a distant memory. As my queen, you will witness realms beyond your darkest imagining. His vow was an oath forged in fire, binding and absolute. Ereshkigal felt a ripple of unease. Is this to be my fate, she questioned inwardly? To be caged by his tempest? A trophy to his conquest? Look upon me, dragon, she spat with a fury that rivaled his own. I am Ereshkigal, mistress of death, weaver of fate. You have taken me by force, but you shall never possess my soul. The air cracked with tension, and for a moment it seemed like time itself held its breath. But then, a surge of electric might, Kurr shook the skies, carrying away the goddess whose spirit refused to be quelled, her eyes ablaze with an unspoken curse. The city of Eridu diminished below, a testament to the beginning of an era where gods clashed with dragons and the destinies intertwined in the most unexpected of ways. The throne room of the celestial palace was a cavernous space where echoes danced off of high arched ceilings, adorned with meticulously crafted frescoes depicting the creation of the stars. Sunbeams pierced through the stained glass windows, casting a kaleidoscope of colors that shimmered across the polished onyx floor, imbuing the chamber with an ethereal light. Enlil, Enki began, his voice reverberating across the grand hall. The dragon's audacity knows no bounds. To seize Ereshkigal in such a brazen act? Indeed, Enlil replied, his voice steady as a mountain rock, a sharp contrast to the storm brewing in his brother's eyes. He stood tall and immovable, a pillar of resolve in the face of despair. Kurr has overstepped, and this affront cannot go unanswered. Her dominion over the dead gives her powers, yes. Enki's words trailed off, his gaze lost in the distance. But against Kurr's dark magic, even she is vulnerable. More than her power is at stake, Enlil interjected, his voice a deep rumble that seemed to resonate with the very foundations of this palace. It is her spirit, her essence. Kurr seeks to corrupt what is pure, to bend it to his vile will. A silence fell between them, heavy as the weight of the mountains they had once raised from the earth. The clinking of Enki's golden wrist cuffs marked the passage of time as he resumed his restless pacing. The echo of each step spoke of urgency, a need to act swiftly, lest the unthinkable come to pass. Then we must strike, Enki declared, halting abruptly, his determination piercing the heavy air. We must venture into the depths, into Kurr's shadowy realm, and retrieve our sister. Indeed, Enlil nodded, his countenance as resolute as the iron core of the world they had shaped together. But remember, brother, the path of the underworld is fraught with perils, its secrets shrouded in a darkness thicker than a night's cloak. Enki's fists clenched at the thought of the treacherous journey ahead. His heart pounded like the drums of war, rhythmic call to arms that resonated within his soul. Ereshkigal, spirited and brave, now in the clutches of that vile creature. Anguish mingled with rage, burning in his chest like molten lava, seeking release. Time is fleeting, and every moment we delay, Enki said, his voice cracking like thunder, our sister suffers under Kurr's tyranny. Kurr's breath is as venomous as his deceit is deep. How does one slay such malevolence? Enki paced before him, hands clasped behind his back. By striking at the heart, the source of its power, Enlil replied. his own hand reaching towards an ornate chest that rested beside his throne. The lid lifted with a sound like the whisper of a secret being unveiled, and from within he drew forth a staff of singular beauty and menace. "Behold," Enlil intoned, presenting the weapon to Enki, "this staff was wrought from the bones of the earth, imbued with the fury of storms and the steadfastness of a mountain. It is the dragonbane, shaped by my hands for such a task as this." Enki's fingers closed around the staff, feeling the thrum of its latent powers coursing through the intricate runes that spired down its length. Its balance was effortless, as though it had been an extension of his arm waiting to be claimed. "May it serve you well," Enlil said, his confidence a beacon in the encroaching dread. "Thank you, brother." Enki's voice held a new edge, tempered by resolve. He imagined the staff cleaving through the shadows, piercing the heart of darkness that ensnared Ereshkigal. "With this I shall cleave a path to her salvation." "Go with the might of the rivers, the depth of the sea," and Enlil's gaze locked with his, a silent vow passing between them. "Until Kurr lies defeated, or I draw no more breath, I swear upon it. Then let the winds of fate hasten your journey. For the bond of blood and honor shall lead you to victory." The river Styx, with its onyx waters, whispered secrets of the departed Enki, god of wisdom and water, navigating the serpentine path through the shadow-drenched underworld. His vessel, a ghostly bark fashioned by the skeletons of fallen leviathans, cut from the darkness, guided by his unerring will. Clutched in his hands was a staff, a divine instrument of divine protection, forged by the tempestuous hands of his brother Enlil. The weapon's shaft was carved from the world tree. Its leaves still murmured forgotten incantations, while the head glimmered with an obsidian edge, thirsting for justice. "Kurr," Enki's voice resounded against the cavernous walls, a clarion call that sliced through the silence like a blade. "Show yourself, serpent of the abyss. Face me if you dare." His heart thundered within him, a drumbeat of both fury and resolve. Ereshkigal, his sister, the queen of his stark realm, taken by the vile dragon's greed. Their bond, woven from the cosmic tapestry, could not be severed by such treachery. He would free her or join her in the eternal light. "Kurr," he shouted again, his voice echoing against the void, "I have traversed the plains of mortals and gods to claim back what is rightfully ours. You cannot hide from destiny, nor from my wrath." The river responded to his presence, its currents swirling around him in a dance of solidarity. Enki closed his eyes for a moment, summoning the lengths of the waters that were in his domain. He felt the ceaseless power coursing through his veins, an extension of his very essence. The staff pulsed with kindred energy, ready to strike too when the moment arose. "Your cowardice is as vast as your cruelty," Enki murmured under his breath, his gaze piercing the gloom. "It will be your undoing." In his mind, Enki rehearsed the tales of Kurr's fearsome might, the dragon who commanded lightning and calamity, whose scales were said to be impervious to mortal weapons. But the spear of Enlil was no mere tool of man. It bore the weight of divine purpose, and Enki was its righteous welder. "Face me, Kurr," he demanded. "Face me, Kurr." His demand was an unyielding force, the roar of an impending storm. "Your time has come to answer for your crimes." He could almost sense the dragon's lurking presence, the air tinged with the metallic scent of impending rain, the harbinger of the tempest that was Kurr. Enlil's pulse quickened, the anticipation of battle igniting a fire within him no underworld chill could quench. He stood ready, a deity alone in the darkness, save for the specter of those who long passed, who bore silent witness to the confrontation. "Come forth," he whispered, half to Kurr, half to himself, "and let us end this." The sky ruptured with a deafening roar as the great dragon Kurr emerged, unfurling his colossal wings that blotted out the scant light filtering through the dense cacophony of the underworld. His scales glimmered like obsidian shards, reflecting the fury in his eyes, which burned with a hatred as ancient as the realms he terrorized. With a guttural snarl, he unleashed a barrage of jagged stones upon Enlil, who stood resolute at the river's edge. "Your stony rain is mere pebbles to me, beast," Enki shouted, thrusting his staff upward, a defiant sentinel against the onslaught. The stones hurled towards him with the wrath of 1,000 curses, but But Enki called forth the river's might, and waters surged upward in a protective vortex, shattering the stone against the liquid barrier. The river obeyed his command as if alive, each droplet a loyal soldier in his elemental army. Is this the strength of the mighty Kurr? Enki taunted, though his heart hammered against his ribs. He had long mastered the dance of battle, but Kurr was no ordinary foe. The dragon's roar was a tempest incarnate, a bringer of devastation that could break both body and spirit. Kurr circled above, a dark seraphim wreathed in malice, and then, with a crackle that split the silence, lightning forked from his gaping maw. It zigzagged through the abysmal air, a lethal tapestry woven by the dragon's breath. The electrical tendrils sought Enki with an intent as deadly as poison arrows. "By the deep waters shield me," muttered Enki, grounding himself in the power of the thrumming underneath his feet. He extended his hands, and from the river burst forth a dome of spiraling currents, intercepting the electrical assault. Steam hissed where lightning met water, filling the air with the scent of ancient earth, raw and invigorated. "Your tricks are impressive, but they will not save you," Kurr bellowed, his voice thunderous, echoing off the cavern walls. "Words of a desperate fiend," Enki retorted, gripping the staff with knuckles white as bones. "Your tyranny ends here, on this very shore." The dragon descended, talons stretched wide, prepared to eviscerate. Enki pivoted, the staff an extension of his resolve. He parried with fluid motions, each movement a testament to his unwavering purpose. Water swirled around him, a maelstrom at his command, ready to strike as an ally to his cause. "Then come, face the destiny you have wrought," Enki challenged, his voice steady, but his mind alight with strategy. Each lightning bolt, each swipe of Kurr's formidable claws was a pattern to decipher, a weakness to be exploited. Their battle raged, a symphony of clashing elements and war cries that reverberated through the chthonic realm. In the dance of combat, Enki found clarity. His sister's plight sharpened his focus. Her bonds fueled his vengeance. With every thrust and parry, he was a surge of the tide, relentless and unyielding. "Your end looms, Kurr," Enki declared, his conviction piercing the cacophony of their battle. "I am the deluge that will douse your inferno, the tempest that will topple your reign." Kurr responded only with a primal scream, and in the heart of the chaos, Enki waged war, not just for Erishkigal, not just for retribution, but for the balance of all things that hung precariously in the balance of his staff's fate. Enki gripped the staff of Enlil tightly, the sinew of his muscles taut as bowstrings. He could feel Kurr's breath, a gale laced with malice and electricity, skirting the currents of the water that circled him. The river beneath him thrashed in response to their conflict, its waves mirroring the tumultuous sky where the dragon loomed. "Your terror ends here, beast," Enki bellowed over the roar of elements colliding. He lunged upward, his force slicing through the air, carried by a surging pillar of water. Kurr's reply was a bolt of lightning, white hot and aimed to obliterate. But Enki was the storm now, his body one with the torrential force he commanded. The staff, an extension of his will, absorbed the energy, channeling it back into the water, into the very wrath of the river. "Feeling the sting of your own fury," Enki cried out as he thrust the staff forward. It found its mark, piercing through scales that shimmered like darkened glass, through flesh and bone, until it reached the cold heart of the beast. For a moment, time seemed still, even the river pausing in its relentless flow. Kurr's pained roar shook the foundations of the underworld, a cry that signaled the end of an age. The dragon convulsed, its massive form writhing against the impalement, light dimming from its eyes. "Fall, Kurr, and let this realm know peace," Enki. Far from the battlefield, within the confines of her dark prison, Erishkigal sensed the tremor of her captor's demise. A surge of hope glinted within her chest, the chains that bound her rattling as she moved, her newfound strength born from the echoes of her brother's victory. She wrestled against her shackles. They gave way, clattering to the floor, the sound a sweet symphony to her ears. "Enki," she breathed, her voice a mixture of relief and disbelief. She stumbled toward the riverbank, the scent of damp earth and the promise of freedom guiding her. The river was a scene of the aftermath, the water calming, returning to its natural course. Enki stood there, his chest heaving, the staff no longer in his hand but beside him, its end stained with the essence of the vanquished dragon. Brother, Erishkigal called out, her voice carrying over the gentle lap of water, against the bank. Enki turned, his eyes searching the shadows until they landed on her, the sister for whom he had waged war. There were no need for words, not yet. Their gazes met across a distance, a silent acknowledgment of what had been endured and what had been sacrificed. Let us leave this place, Enki said, his voice soft yet unwavering, a stark contrast from the ferocity that had raged moments ago. He extended her a hand, and together they would walk away from the darkened waters, each step taking them closer to the realm of light above, to home.